Good day, creative spirit, and welcome. Jesus said, when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there. Light in our community, light in our world, light in our lives. Christ is with us. This is our sacred time. Wherever we gather, it is sacred space. And this land we gather on, it is sacred land. We acknowledge the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the neutral nation, Attawandaron. May we live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all who live, work, and worship on it. Amen. All right. Let's start then with some singing. We'll get our hymns on the go for this yet again online session. Woo! All right. It almost feels, I dare to say, it almost feels like it wasn't that long ago, doesn't it? But believe me, the technical issues would indicate that it has been a while and I have forgotten a few things. All right, so let's start with 427 in Voices United, To Show by Touch and Word. All right, and starting with this new year, let's start in a place of focus and contemplation and quiet and calm and rest and all the things that sometimes escape us in today's current world. So 374, Creative Spirits theme song, if you will, Come and Find the Quiet Center.
Find the frame where we are free.
Our reading for today, let me just reorganize myself, if you will. Our reading today comes from abbeyofthearts.com. You know it's one of my favorites. And it's a wonderful New Year's contemplation, if you will. And it's called Embracing Mystery in the New Year, 10 Essential Practices. Dearest monks, artists, and pilgrims, who doesn't love the promise of new beginning the new year offers? St. Benedict described his rule as a rule for beginners, reminding us to always begin again. In Buddhism, an essential practice is beginner's mind. When we think we have become an expert at things, especially the spiritual life, we are in trouble. Living into the mystery of things helps us to release our hold on needing to know the answers. That's me. One of the things the monk and artist have in common is a love of mystery, a willingness to sit in the place of tension and paradox until it ripens forth. New Year's resolutions often come from a place of lack or of thinking we know how to fix ourselves. Unfortunately, they are often fueled by a consumer culture that is eager to have us buy more and more things to improve ourselves. Embracing mystery, on the other hand, honors our profound giftedness and depth and acknowledges that coming to know ourselves and God is a lifetime exploration. So my invitation to you, dear monks and artists, is to shift your thinking this year. Welcome in ambiguity. Learn to love thy holy darkness of mystery. Dance on the fertile edges of life. Let what you love ripen forth. So here are the 10 essentials. 1, breathe deeply. Our breath is our most immediate and vital connection to the life force which sustains us moment by moment. Let yourself be filled with awe and wonder at the marvels of this intimate gift. Sit for 3 minutes, savoring that you are breathed into. 2, embrace night wisdom. One of the great gifts of dreams is that they upend our desire for logic and immerse us in a narrative which reveals the shadows we must wrestle with and the joys which call to us, whether or not they make sense to the waking world. 3, dance freely. We live so disconnected from our bodies. Dance has been part of human culture for thousands of years as a way to experience union with ourselves, one another, and the divine. Each day, put on a piece of music that you love, close the door, and dance. Pay attention to what rises up in the process. If you resist, even better, dance with your resistance. 4, follow the thread. Each of us has a unique unfolding story and call in this world. We don't figure this out, but rather we allow the story to emerge in its own time, tending the symbols and synchronicities which guide us along. 5, trust in what you love. Following the thread is essentially about cultivating a deep trust in what you love. What are the things that make your heart beat loudly, no matter how at odds they feel with your current life, and perhaps especially so? Make some room this year to honor what brings you alive. Number 6, let the rhythms of nature guide you. We live our lives in a constant state of stimulation and productivity. We are often exhausted and overwhelmed. When we turn to the natural world, we find each day, each moon cycle, and each season a rhythm of rise and fall, fullness and emptiness. Trying to live all the time in rising or fullness is exhausting. Make some time to embrace the falling and emptiness of life, which immerses us in an experience of mystery. 7, release what is no longer necessary. We accumulate so many things in our days. Perhaps you have discovered at Christmas that you have a new pile of stuff which now requires energy to maintain or worry about. Reflect on what is most essential. Then ask yourself, what are the thoughts, attitudes, or expectations about life which keep you from freedom? How do you try to control the direction of your life rather than yielding to grace? 8, remember that you will die. St. Benedict writes in his rule to keep death daily before your eyes. This is never an act of morbid obsession, but a reminder of life's incredible gift. Any of us who have brushed near death or had loved ones pass away know this wisdom in profound ways. This is another paradox of the spiritual life. A vibrant relationship to our mortality is essential to a vibrant relationship to life. Ask for the wisdom of your ancestors is number 9. Each of us is the inheritor of generations of stories which beat through our blood. Each of us has mothers and fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers, who wrestled mightily with living a meaningful life. We can call upon this great cloud of witnesses to support us in our own wrestling. We can listen across the veil between worlds. And number 10, open yourself to receiving a word for the year ahead. Just one word. In quiet moments, what are the desires you hear being whispered from your heart? Is there a word or phrase that shimmers forth, inviting you to dwell within it in the months ahead? Something you can grow into and don't fully understand. Imagine if your New Year's wasn't about fixing or improving, but about deepening and transforming, about embracing the holy mystery at the heart of the world. What if the year ahead wasn't about growing more certain about things, but about releasing the hold of your thinking mind so something deeper and more fertile could rise up? What might bloom from such rich soil of your imagination? How might you create an altar for an unknown God and for the unknown depths of your own beautiful being, waiting to be freed? Isn't that beautiful? Lots to think about. 10 essentials for embracing the mystery. Let's take a moment in prayer. O divine presence, you have danced your way into my innermost being. O mystery of life, you have tended and nurtured me. You have enriched my spirit and watered my dryness. You have poured your abundant love into the veins of my soul. O divine presence, your radiant energy surges through my being. I bow to the profound mystery of your sacred life within me. Amen. For our spiritual practice portion of our session today, we are going to be drawing with a compass, and I'm going to also show you without a compass how to draw the seed of life geometric pattern. And if those that aren't familiar with what a seed of life pattern is, you have likely seen this before somewhere in your travels, and you may have seen it all over the world because it is all over the world. It is an ancient symbol, and it is called the seed of life, and it's made up of circles, 7 circles. All right, and then we are going to turn that into a mandala. So pretty straightforward for the most part. We're going to, I'll show you how to draw this, and then you can color and or paint or whichever you want to do, your choice, your favorite medium to color it in. And maybe you'll choose not to once you're done drawing it. So the things that you will need, this is a 6-inch square piece of watercolor paper that I have. You could use cardstock, again, whatever you have on hand. Please don't go out and potentially expose yourself to, unnecessarily anyway, to the world just for paper. Whatever you happen to have at home. So like I say, watercolor. I'm using a 6-inch square only because it's a really comfortable size that is manageable in something that you can sit down and do within the hour, say to 2 hours of our normal session time, and actually complete it. Not something that you'll have to leave and come back to and that sort of thing, unless you choose to, right? So 6-inch square. You can do it larger. You could do an 8.5 by 11 piece if you wanted to. If that's easier, if vision is an issue, then by all means make it larger. But that's what we'll be focusing on today. A compass, as I had mentioned, and if you don't have a compass, a drinking glass or something that is around a 7-centimeter diameter, I found is working really well. As far as size-wise for this 6-inch. So again, if you've not got anything around this size, then you could go ahead and find something larger and do it on larger paper, right? Pencil, wait for it. Eraser, wait for it. Ruler, oh, it is a new year. Oh my word. Okay, pencils, erasers, and rulers. Yep, life certainly has changed, hasn't it? And as well as that, gel pens or a really ultra fine black pen. Again, Sharpie markers. These will be very important for everything that you're going to be doing. That's what you're going to draw the basis, your pattern with, and then any designs that you may want to add, go ahead and do them with Sharpie first, and then you can go ahead and fill it in with color afterwards. And if you have any of the Micron, the archival pens that have got the really super fine tips, those are really great as well. So that's all that we need at the moment. So I'm going to say we should get started. The seed of life. I sent you in your email some finished various pictures that I had found, of course, online, just to give you some ideas. Some of them vary anywhere from keeping sort of the pure seed of life form intact with just adding color to sort of each individual circle with it, mixing a bit in the overlapping sections, to extremely elaborate, equally beautiful mandalas that started out with the seed of life, and then anywhere into sort of like something in between, much like what I've done here. And again, with the 6-inch square, it's a very manageable size. So the seed of life. Right, so how to go about and creating that pattern. So take your paper, and I find one of the easiest things to do, and it's a bit of a it's just a helper, so to speak. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find the center point on the paper. I've divided the paper. I found the center. And go ahead and do that regardless of whether or not you are going to be using a compass to do this, or whether you are going to be using a glass, or if you can see the lines there. Better. Can you see the quadrants there? Now you want to just sort of make sure, see how, in an average, round numbers, and give yourself some edge. So you're thinking, okay, if I'm going to do a circle and this is going to be the center, I don't want it going directly to the edge of the card. I want it to go a little bit in. So I've got a 7 centimeter or 7.5 centimeter here. So I'll probably go 3.5, 3 3/4. So I'm just going to set my compass. Well, 3.5 is good because then that'll give me a nice edge. So I'm setting my compass to 3.5. I'm placing it directly in the center as I can see it this far away from my paper. Normally my nose is in the paper. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw my circle. There we go. And then from there, I'm going to go to one of these, and it doesn't matter, you can start wherever, but one of the intersecting points. And I'm going to put the center of the compass on an intersecting point. I haven't changed the size of the compass, right? This is exactly the same size, so it's going to go back through that starting center point. And we draw another circle. And then I'm going to go to that intersecting point of the two. So we're talking about this intersecting point, if you can see that, where the two circles have intersected. And I'm going to draw my circle. And again, you'll see that it's actually going through the center of the second circle I drew, and it goes through the center of the first circle I drew. And now I will continue around and I will put another circle using this intersecting point as my center. And then the next circle. And as we get closer to the end of creation here, oops, and one more. And you can see that it's a little off because these lines technically would have gone through that center point there. So I'm going to find a happy medium. And there we have, whoopsie, wasn't even on camera, sorry about that. There we have our seed of life. All right, the next thing for you to do then is take your Sharpie markers or your archival markers or whatever. So I've got a Sharpie, and I'm just going to go over these lines, right? So I would just, and I wouldn't necessarily start with each. No, maybe I should just back up a second. If you have a compass that allows like any kind of pencil or pen to be inserted into it, not like this little tiny thing that's got its own little tiny itty bitty lead, then go with that, because then you could actually, if you're comfortable with it, or if you want to do one sort of, or do as a test and then do a second one, you could actually put your marker, pardon me, your Sharpie right into it, and then you don't have to retrace this all. But anyway, and I usually just start with these little sections in here, and I'm just going to go and take your time at this. Don't rush through it. Enjoy the fact that this is simple. Listen, like I say, have some music playing, and just revel in the beauty of this beautiful, simple, perfect pattern. All right, so then once you've got this, this would be the time that you could go through and decide if you're going to add other patterns to it, or if you want, because you've done this in Sharpie or some other waterproof archival type pen, like these, you know, the Micron types, or like I say, the Sharpies, you can now go in and add other shapes to it. So I've sent some examples of, you know, and just even if you don't want to worry about the examples, just think, where can I add lines that go vertically or horizontally? Can they be curved lines? Can they be arches? Can you think petals and leaves? If this is sort of the seed of life and you want to keep it in that idea of nature and growth, then maybe you just want, you know, the center as a flower. Maybe you want the whole thing as a flower. It's blooming on its own. Maybe you want to accentuate the fact that God is at the center of all of this. At the very end of it, when you have your piece done, if you want to add, because I know some of you love glitter, or if you want to add like glitter in the center, or you can see that I've outlined this with a gold gel pen that I had, and it's not obvious, but I've gone ahead and I've actually sort of retraced each circle just to sort of reiterate and strengthen, if you will, the fact that this started out as the seed of life and how it has bloomed and changed and grown. But you can add, right? I've bisected the inner little petals. I've added another circle in behind. So again, if you've got your compass and you want to add a secondary circle to give yourself, you know, another circle like this, so that you've got some other smaller areas, a ring to create pattern or color change, then just go ahead and change your compass to the ring size that you may want, or 3 or 4 rings, or maybe you just want a smaller ring right behind these petals. Then just, I didn't even draw the full thing in, I just actually drew just between those little petal-like overlapping sections, and then that gave me something like that. Then that I can go ahead and again just go in with my marker. And you could probably do that freehand as well, but if you're not necessarily comfortable doing that freehand, I understand in this particular, at this particular time. A lot of things I would very much say do it freehand. There you go. All right. And again, you can add another ring, you can add patterns and leaves and, or again, dots, circles, you name it. However you so feel, and the beautiful thing is that once you've done it and you've created this pattern, and you, however you choose to color it in, you can do it again. The beautiful thing that if you ever find that you're struggling, there is something very satisfying, because this pattern is so rooted in nature and in our DNA, in creation, which is all of us. It is a very satisfying pattern to create and then to color, and then help you work through whatever you might be, if you're feeling stuck. Now, how to create if you don't have a compass. So again, I will find my center. There's my center. If you know, whatever size of, like I say, this is around a 7 centimeter glass, but take whatever you're going to be tracing around and see what the outside, the diameter is from, I don't want the inside diameter, of course, right? I want the outside of the glass. So the diameter, yeah, this is about a 7.3 centimeters. So I am just going to give myself a little helper guidelines on here. And again, this is only because I have a specified size of paper. I can't just put this glass anywhere and expect this pattern to work. So I'm trying to find the dead center. So if it's a it's about a 7.3, let's call it 7.2. I'm going to want a 3.6. That would be 3.6, right, from the center out to the edge of the circle. So I am just going to, on my each little quadrant, do 3.6, mark a 3.6, mark each quadrant 3.6, 3.6. Okay, a little easier, right? So now we've got 3.6 centimeters from the center. So now I know when I put my glass on the top that it needs to be right along each of those dots, right? Then I will be able to know that my glass is perfectly centered on that paper. Okay, I can work with that. And then I'm going to trace my circle. Get my big head in the camera. Okay. And it's a little wonky. That's going to happen. And then you're going to want to go ahead and, again, this needs to be on, you know what, I'm just going to take, I'm going to add another line. So take one of the sides and just do that 3.6 line sort of straight across. This is just allowing myself a bit of a bumper here. So I know that the center, I'm trying to make this point right here, this point, be now the center of my glass. Right, so I've added an extra line here that allows then to know that I don't go over too far. So I am bumping it in between these two sort of axes that I've created. Now again, sorry for my big head, but I'm having difficulty seeing it. Oh, my eyes, my eyes. All right. That's pretty close. Okay. And now okay. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trace that circle. Right. Okay. And then our next circle, I know this right here needs to be the center of my circle, right? And that the circle needs to, the edge of the glass needs to touch the center of that circle, and the edge of the glass needs to touch the center of that circle. And as you can see from that, it wasn't perfectly centered before. Ah, yes, indeed. But we do what we can and we use what we can, right? So that's what we're doing. And again, I'm going to go around, and then this will be the next center point. So if that there you are. Oopsie, sorry. Yes, not quite as neat, a little rougher, but again, it's there. That just takes a little more practice than the compass. All right. So that, and again, then I just go through and I do it with the Sharpie, and I add my pattern if I so choose. And again, you can use markers, you could use crayons, you could do watercolor. You could do, like some of those had beautiful washes of watercolor. There was one example that I had shown you that though it wasn't based on the Seed of Life, it had some beautiful sort of ethereal watercolor backgrounds, right? So just sort of go ahead and wet it down, and if you wanted to tape it down in the corners, that's fine too. Wet your paper down after you've traced this out, because depending on what colors you put down, you don't want to lose your pencil line, your guidelines initially. Yes, do all of the Seed of Life this first, then go ahead with that background, and then it may, depending on how those colors move over various, because they're just moving on their own and you haven't decided exactly what other patterns, you may decide based on the colors, it might attract you to certain shapes and patterns that you want to add, or something that you want then to illuminate more. All right. So there we are. That is our Seed of Life mandala from Sacred Geometry, our creation, and enjoy. All right, it's time to recenter before I send you off to spend your own time with God in conversation, in your spiritual practice, or in silence, while you create those lovely ancient mysteries, the Seed of Life. So I want you to put your feet as flat on the floor as possible, and your back as sort of as straight, or at least as upright as you can, which allows your chest to open up so that you can get those good deep breaths in. So we're going to take our first deep breath in, and as we breathe in, I want you to say to yourself, faithful love, and on the way out, dwelling in me. And again, breathing in God's faithful love, and on the way out, think, dwelling in me. And one more time, breathing in God's faithful love, and on the way out, remembering that it's dwelling in me. And together we say, Creator God, quiet my mind before it passes judgment on this prayer, my gift of time to you. Amen. Enjoy this time that you spend in quiet, or play music. Doesn't always have to be quiet, right? We often play music, but it helps to quiet the mind. So play your favorite music. Play something that relaxes you. But stay in that moment of time spent with God and enjoy that spiritual practice of creativity. And I will see you here next week. Bye.